Welcome everybody to Sustainability at Work. Our guest this week has a very peculiar title that more and more people will have in the future. He is the Chief Resilience Officer for the Municipality of Milan and has 10 years of experience in climate change policies and urban resilience planning. He is so obsessed with resiliency that he asked the bartender to come up with a cocktail called Resilience, which is a mix of bitter taste from the shock and some sweet taste for the recovery. This reminds me of our work as sustainability professional, navigating different emergencies, strategies, and narratives in a continuous bittersweet cycle, right? Today's cities are at the center of fast-changing trends that together will decide how we will live in the future and how we will be able to communicate and cultivate resiliency in communities, and how we will understand and pursue sustainability. The recipe of the resilience cocktail is only the starting point. The rest comes in an interview with Piero. Enjoy! Sustainability at Work is a podcast about sustainability in the workplace and in companies. My name is Samara and I've been working with sustainability for almost 10 years. Welcome everybody to Sustainability at Work. Thank you, Piero, for being here. Welcome.
My pleasure. Welcome. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. So, Piero, I'm very happy to have you because we get to talk about sustainability in the context of a city. So, your title is Chief Resilience Officer of the Municipality of Milan. But before going into this, which I think is very interesting, I'm also told that you are an inventor of cocktails. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Actually, I'm not the inventors. I'm one that was beneficiary of a cocktail named Resilience. I was one night I went in a secret bar that is located in Vicenza, and is back on the time then in the United States there is the secret bar. So it was the time of prohibition. When you enter this place, you are not traditionally ordered the traditional cocktail like the gin tonic. You have to quote a word. And when the barman comes to me, Giacomo, as my friend, say, "What do you want?" They say, "I want a resilience." And I say, "Oh gosh, what is a resilience?" And I was going to explain what was the resilience cocktail and the resilience ideas and the resilience meaning. And they come out with a cocktail, a mixture of bitter, tasty, bitter because it's when you get the shock or the stress. And then he was capable to add some sweetie inside together with the bitter. That is the point of recovery and to bring back to the initial state. And then it's start this tradition. So when I was traveling that time a lot, I went to another secret bar located in Washington, D.C. I went in Paris. I went in Lisbon. And every place I was asking for a resilience cocktail. And it was kind of becoming a tradition for myself to ask for this new invention and new creation from the bartender, and it become kind of unique experience around. So also moving from what is traditional shock and stress and the recovery phase, also when you are drinking with friends at bar. So that was a funny story that happened in my life, in my journey.
Yeah, I thought it was very funny. So, how many people would you say, in percentage, in the world have a title like yours in different cities in the world? How many people are dedicated to either resilience or sustainability now in cities?
Well, it's a quite an exact number. At the moment, we have 83 chief resilience officers around the globe. That was initially supported, pioneered by the Rockefeller Foundation with the 100 Resilient Cities program. Now the number is increasing around, but officially we know that there are 83, but it's spreading the concept we have seen over the last few weeks that some state in the United States or the Irish government has introduced a chief resilience government on the national scale. So it's spreading. So I would say that we are still less than 500 people, but over the last year, over the pandemic time as well, a lot of private companies start to looking to have a chief resilience officer within their structures based on the need to increase the risk management. It was already part of the business and the private sector as a structures as management part, but it's an increasing number.
So why resiliency and not sustainability?
From my perspective, resilience is the step forward than sustainability. My background is as an economist. Sustainability is one of the longest policy implemented over the time because it seeks the time of the beginning of the 60s that was introduced this concept. At that time, the economy was linear. So there was always sustainability was the balance between the use of resources and the economic growth. But that was linear, the economy. Now the economy is not anymore linear because there is two different kind of shock and you need to be adaptive. It's not only the balance between the economic growth and the use of natural resources, but it's also how we can absorb the shock and not be, let's say, devastated or stopped by a shock. So my opinion, sustainability is a piece of resilience. And that is what we need to move forward because resilience is a key capacity for the transition time that we are facing. Sustainability somehow, I don't want to say that we need to overcome the concept of sustainability, but sustainability, it's something that should be updated and be more close to the others. Also because sustainability could be related to different kind of sector, not only the environment, but with the social sustainability, with the economic sustainability. And so I would say that we always need to refresh the definition and the word and the approach we have in the city. And also because sustainability, someone has to become an adult and not always a kid or younger. And so the mature evolution of sustainability is, to my opinion, is a resilience. But it's my personal point of view and my definition is we still need to do a lot of sustainability. But if you look at cities as a private company, as well as the financial sector at the moment, have started to give sustainability for granted. So it's part of the policy. So branding sustainability becomes the everyday life, not for everyone, not for all private, not for all cities, but for a big city, for the leader in this work, sustainability is something that is given for granted. So that is when we need to always push more.
Mm-hmm. Very clear. Who are the leaders of sustainability in cities around the world? Which are the cities you heard more talk about?
If you look at Europe, I think in Europe we have a lot of good example coming from Copenhagen, coming from Paris, Barcelona is performing very well. Milan is doing quite good, but we still need to do more. We have the Swedish cities as Stockholm, Uppsala in Finland, and the others. So there is several. At the same time, we also see New York is improving and performing very well. We have San Francisco is doing quite cool. We have good example from Colombia, as Bogota and the others. So Buenos Aires is improving. So or Singapore in Asia, and everyone has defined sustainability based on their needs because we cannot too much compare cities one to the others because it's based on the morphological aspect of the cities, on the spreadness of the city. Paris is bigger than Milan. It's like 10 or 15 times bigger than Milan. London, for example, is a good example, but London has 9 million people, 33 boroughs. Milan is 1.4 million. So we always need to look and based on understanding, but we have cities all over the globe. Even in Africa, we have a lot of cities that are now improving. I think Cape Town in South Africa, we have Melbourne or Sydney in Australia, in the Oceania continent. So we have several different examples in every continent that are leading this transition. And every time we see what is the good aspect, but also the negative aspect that maybe was underestimated in terms of sustainability process at the beginning. So we have a lot of learning. We have a lot of good examples where we should learn and we should support to move forward.
Are there platforms where you are able to compare, talk, inspire?
We have a network. We have the C40 network that was led by Bloomberg, was launched by Bloomberg years ago. Is one of the leader network on these topics. We have the Resilient Cities Network, the so-called 100 Resilient Cities Network, now named Resilient Cities Network. In Europe, we have Eurocities, it's another European cities network that we are always in talk, conversation, exchange. We have working group. We do lobbying activities, the international institution. There is always the United Nations with, for example, with the campaign that making a city resilience campaign. 2030 is a good example of this. So and then there is other kind of network based on a peculiar initiative as the food, renewable energy, or the mobility transport. In Europe, we have also the climate kick or the mobility kick, also important for us. So there is ICLEI, is another global player in terms of network. ICLEI is one of the Asian, working a lot in Asia, as in South America, as in North America. So there is several initiatives in the network. Sometimes there were even too much, could be simplified, because at the end, the people in the city are always the same. Another important players we should engage more. The European Union is focusing a lot of their policy on the city scale and the urban scale, let's say. I think what we should be improving more is the presence of cities, the International Panel on Climate Change, and the UNFCCC negotiation process is where the city are missing somehow. And I think it will be a bigger player to be a seat at the table in the negotiation process. I know that it's a national negotiation process, but cities where the things happen. In the meantime, someone is thinking is where things happen. So the city should start playing an important role.
Yeah, and that was one of my questions. Why is so important sustainability for the cities? Why is it so important to develop in the cities? Sometimes I heard business saying, for example, you cannot be a sustainable business in an unsustainable system. And so maybe cities are the answer to this wondering. So they give an idea of where we are going.
We should like to improve sustainability in every part of the world, from the mountain by the sea to the rural area and the city. Over the last few decades, the population is now the high percentage of the population is living in cities. So why sustainability is important? It's important because it's where the people could be effective, could be fed by their health, by some pollution, or the impact of climate change. So it's important basically because it's where the people live. And so we need to take care of our community as much as possible, increase their safety and their healthy and their well-being. And that, so that is one. On the other side, sustainability is important for cities because in a time of financial restriction, always the last 20 years, 10 years, let's say, after the financial crisis in 2008, is also one of the opportunity to create more efficiency in terms of infrastructural management or urban regeneration process, and then could give us more financial capabilities to support the urban population in terms of economic that they need or social services. So sustainability is also a way to create efficiency in the financial management of a city to then increase the percentage of support for the social needs and the vulnerable population. Mm-hmm. And the third one is also because in a city is also the one that is consuming what is produced in the rural area, for example. So if you are capable as a citizen of the city to improve our capacity to be more sustainable, is also a way how we can improve the request, the demand for more sustainable approach in the rural areas. And if you think that what is consumed in the city, it could be effective for the ocean. Think about plastic. So as much as we reduce the plastic in the city, we also reduce the plastic in the ocean, and we protect the fish and we protect all the ecosystem and the sea ecosystem. Mm-hmm. So because city is the one that is consuming, but is the one also that is producing waste, and it could be then have an impact on the other ecosystem. So mm-hmm. That's it where we should look. That is why I think city has an important role.
So help me understand, how is this resilience team in the city of Milan organized? How many people are working?
We are part, as a city resilience department, we are part of the bigger department named Environmental and Transition. It is led by the architect Filippo Salucci. The Environmental Transition Department has 3 areas: energy and climate, water and waste, and the city resilience. Within the city resilience department, we are now 22 people, a different kind of level of entry in the structure. So we go from the chief resilience myself to the deputy chief resilience officer, and then go to the municipality officer. Then through the European funding, we have been capable to hire consultant to people like project officer, project manager, and so on specific topics from the green vegetation to the resilience infrastructures to communication service designer. We got lawyer, we got engineering, and we have urban planners. But then there is also an important part for our team is the connection with the university and foundation. So we always back on web volunteering or stagiaire, also to bring into the city administration new emphasis in making a new knowledge and know-how in improving, because we also play a role of sort of research and development unit somehow, because then is when someone say we act the public administration, because then is also when we stand. But what is essential for us is to be transversal as capabilities, to be as much as possible to have a strong gender equality within our department, and also the presence of a lot of the young generation for us, because we believe that the young generation as well, the one that we're going to live the next 50 years. So they should have more role in deciding and take part of the process, decide what will be the future of their city in the next 50 years. So work with the younger, the gender equality, the mix of professional are, I think, the essential one to be sustainability. If we are approaching sustainability only have environmental engineering, we fail because it's going again in silos. If we work on sustainability thinking only about the corporate social responsibility with the policies and the economies, we fail because it's just a piece. So the vocation of resilient sustainability, if you don't have a transversal or a multidisciplinary team, that you are failing, because then it's not what it's request. Things happen.
I think your role is a very complicated one, because you really have to talk with all the other departments and make sure, because whatever I think your department decide has to go through many other departments that have to agree. So how is that process to convince people along the road?
I'd say I don't see my role as more complicated than the others. I think it's like when you are part of a family, even when you have your family relation. There's mommy and daddy, or daddy and daddy, mommy and mommy with kids, and every kind of group relation is complicated. Sometimes even kids didn't tell to the parents what they are doing, and they try to convince them, I want to go for holiday by the sea and not by the mountain, and you have to find the key or the neighboring situation to make. So I think it's also my role, or our role as a department, is to facilitate understanding. What I think is important is always the free phase, is to sit aside of your colleagues and hear what they need, then try to interpret what their needs and try to showcase how we deal with sustainable approach and resilience approach, and then supporting delivery. So it's a process that you have to put on, and based on the process, then you can reach your objective in this sense. So it's where we stand. You have to be patient, flexible, adaptive. So the element of resilience that is flexible, adaptive, and redundant, you have always to apply also in your relation with your colleagues. It's the same. It's like when if you are capable to explain something to your grandmother or grandfather, is when you reach your objective. So it's to be as much as possible simply, but at the same time, you have also to be flexible in changing your perspective based on the existing situation and based on the emerging situation. So, yeah, it is complicated, but it's also a funny challenge.
What are the other biggest challenge of your role and your team?
I don't see bigger challenging than this one, my team and the others. If you are capable to be understood by the others, I think you have my half of your job. The other one, I mean, I refer to Italy, but it's especially from where I stand, is that we don't have a legislation framework on resilience. So this is a big issue because it's more easier somehow in the US and the UK when there is a legislative framework on resilience to operate. So for us, we also open the door, creating a new legislative framework at the local scale for resilience. So that is where the other things is standing, and we need more impact.
Is it a challenge, the fact that when you work with resilience or sustainability, you work on long-term decisions, when you are in a municipality, you work with shorter terms, how do you manage this division? Because in municipalities or in governments change, and it's not sure that you're going to stay enough time to see the results of your decision and your projects. So how do you manage that division?
There is something that is short term, other are medium and long term. Okay, we cannot exactly split these two situations, the medium and the long term. The goals that we are facing, it's yeah, we are lucky because we don't have to focus too much on the present. Present, I mean like retrofit the asphalt on the street. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you also take the responsibility to looking forward. So you have to understand if what the different scenario are possible is exactly what could be happen or not. So that is the most complicated things. And then when you get used of working on the present with a lot of colleagues they have to do it because based on their competencies, sometimes for them say, I don't have time to think about the future at the moment because I need to focus on the real emergency we have at the moment. So it's also to try to showcase how what you decide today could be an effective impact on the future. So then is where we stand. It's like in the private sector when you have to go from a research or a development of of a product and then go to market. There's always a risky, and then it's the risk that we have to take as a public administration.
So a last question maybe, how do you become a chief resilience officer? I guess when you started, it was not something clear that you could decide, I want to be a chief resilience officer, but how was your career? How you develop into this role?
Maybe by the name, no, but I think I was a student doing my master's degree, and I was studying one night with the first year of my master's degree. I was looking at this movie by Igor through American, and I realized that we can fight for every rights, human rights, social rights, worker rights, but if we don't have a hierarchy where we stand, it's not reasonable. So I studied about climate change in my studies. Then I got an opportunity to work for 1 year and a half at the Stockholm Environment Institute at the Tallinn office in Estonia. At that time, my director was Johan Rockström, that is the so-called the Maradona of resilience somehow. So who is open up the story for resilience. So when I was back to Italy, I started working on resiliency policy at the Kyoto level. It was a non-profit organization, and I was the head of international cooperation at the time. And then through my time, I always try to specialize myself on resilience policy as well in the city. Suddenly, after 5-6 years, there was this position at the city of Milan where they were asking who has experience for 5 years or 6 years on resilience. And basically, no one has this experience because resilience was not so common experience in Italy. And then comes this chief resilience office. But it is a journey. So I was lucky to meet with Johan Rockström. I was introduced myself to the concept of resilience as a systemic approach of the world to become a more risky manager somehow, at the same time to connect innovation and memories in making resilience happen. And then I was at the same time an international relations student at the bachelor, economist as a master. Then I did a professional master in management, utilities management. And then I was a researcher after a while also in urban planning at the University of Venice. And so my suggestion in general that nowadays, in my opinion, if one is only looking straight to one professional careers, is not what we need for the world, but also what is needed in the job market. I think it's always interesting to look how you should switch and change your skills and integrate your skills with the others. I see also a student coming to my office. There is a young student now starting. She had a communication bachelor, and then she moved to having a master in urban planning, and now he's mixing these two experience in looking at the relation between the urban planning and gender equality. This kind of approach at the end, when that is on the urban planning and gender equality, comes because she was not straightforward on one professional or one background, but because she was missing the communication, the urban planning, the interest. So that is the mix of the cultural backgrounds.
Makes sense. And is technology helping a lot lately with new innovation in this area?
Technology is part of the solution. I think that what is more important is the community, having a community on the side. Also because technology without a community is responsive to the use of technology doesn't make sense. So it's where we need to stand.
Last question for you, Piero. I know already your favorite cocktail. What is your favorite city outside of Milan? Of course, I don't want you to choose between your city.
Yeah, well, and that's my hometown is Vicenza, so you always be in love with your own town. But what is my personal? I love the kind of cities like Venice because it's a walkable city. First of all, and when you walk around, there is something you know each other, everyone in each other, because you have the time to look in the eyes of the others. When you are sitting in your cars, you are not looking the others in the eyes. So that has you not create this kind of relation. And Venice, it's just beautiful, and and we need to support Venice to protect Venice from the climate change in general. So that is one of my favorite cities around the globe. But at the same time, I really love the Vietnamese cities for the approach they have in people try to guarantee and continue to guarantee the equality among the people in the access to food, for example. So Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, Hue are wonderful cities. I do a lot of Barcelona because Barcelona as well is putting on the head of their urban planning the traditional places, the market as the local shop. So it's try to keep the historical approach living with the new incoming needs. So that and then there is a lot of cities I never seen, and maybe there will be some other cities coming in my life as my favorite. But if I be honest, after the city, I love mountains when everything is coming. The water, the drinkable water comes from mountains. From mountains, we got quality food, and a world without mountains will be a world that it doesn't exist. So, okay, we need to protect our mountains because it's the essential part of our life.
And I think this is the perfect note to end. Thank you so much for this interview. It was very interesting.
Thank you very much.
Bye. Have a nice day. Thank you for listening to this episode of Sustainability at Work. If you like this episode, please consider rating and sharing it. It will help others to discover it, and the more we are learning about sustainability, the better. You can also subscribe on YouTube. Sustainability at Work is a series created together with Traces.Dreams, a collective platform to tell the story of our times and connect the dots by embracing complexity and a diversity of views and ideas. See you next time!